is this in your back pocket? I just saw you walking it.
It's a navigational aids. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually. What's your name and date of birth?
I don't have to give that unless
Yes, sir. I was investigating.
You have reasonable.
Do you want me to put you in handcuffs right now? Yes, sir, I do.
What is your suspicion?
It looks like you're carrying a gun in your back pocket. I'm stopping to make sure you're carrying it properly. You don't have
you ensured that it's not a firearm?
No, you keep turning so I can't see it. You don't have to be to me.
Well, you're being one to me.
You don't.
Sir, what's the stop you for? For a walking stick.
I don't know where his wallet is.
Where's your wallet at, sir? I don't have my wallet on me.
Okay, where's your ID?
Where's your ID? Pocket. Which pocket? You are not allowed to search me.
Here, reasonable suspicion only existed as long as Deputy Godey believed that Mr. Hodges might be openly carrying a firearm.
Sir, are you legally blind? Yes, I am. Okay. I had to walk up here in the dark for jury duty, which was canceled. Why aren't you using your stick? You don't have to use your stick all the time? Not all the time.
All right, Mr. Hodges. Was that hard?
It's gonna be. I want your name and your badge number. You know what? Put him in jail for resisting.
Okay. All right, let's go.
Sergeant Randy Harrison assists Deputy Bodie in placing Mr. Hodges in handcuffs and searching his pockets. Police may properly handcuff a person whom they are temporarily detaining when circumstances reasonably justify the use of such restraint. However, the court clarified that, quote, "We do not suggest that police may routinely handcuff suspects in order to conduct an investigative stop. In this situation, a court would probably hold that the officers had no reasonable suspicion to continue to detain Mr. Hodges, and that even if they did, the use of handcuffs and the search of Mr. Hodges' pockets were illegal because he showed no indication that he was a flight risk, and he had already proven he was not armed when he demonstrated that he was carrying a cane and not a firearm. When Mr. Hodges implies he will be filing a complaint and asks for the officers' names and badge numbers, Sergeant Harrison tells Deputy Bodie to, quote, "put him in jail for resisting. Whoever shall resist, obstruct, or oppose any officer in the lawful execution of any legal duty without offering or doing violence to the person of the officer shall be guilty of a misdemeanor of the first degree." In general, courts have concluded that individuals can be convicted under this statute for refusing to comply with a lawful order from an officer. For instance, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals held in the 2008 case of Vadimski versus City of Melbourne that an individual could be arrested for resisting and obstructing an officer's efforts to detain him during a lawful Terry stop by attempting to leave the scene. In the same vein, in the 2007 case of Zivojinovic versus Barner, the 11th Circuit determined that probable cause existed to arrest an individual for resisting when he, quote, "disobeyed a command by members of law enforcement as he was escorted off a property he had been asked to leave." However, it is essential to note that both the statute and the relevant case law require that an individual oppose a lawful command in order to be convicted of resisting. Given the precedent on the issue, a court would likely determine that Mr. Hodges did not violate Section 843.02 of the Florida statutes because the officers could not lawfully detain him or require that he identify himself once it became evident that he was not carrying a firearm, and therefore were not engaged in the lawful execution of a legal duty.
I want your name and badge number 2, sir.
Have a seat.
You'll pick my property up, please?
I sure will, after you have a seat.
You want to pull this out of my back pocket?
Sure. Here, I'll grab your jacket for you, too.
Mr. Hodges was charged with resisting without violence in violation of Section 843.02 of the Florida statutes. However, the charge was dropped on November 7th, 2022 by State Attorney John Durrett, who stated in a court filing that, quote, "After having examined all known evidence, it is the determination of the undersigned that said cause does not warrant criminal prosecution against the defendant." According to a video statement from Sheriff Mark Hunter, which was released on Facebook, the department determined on November 11th that both officers had violated policy during the interaction. As a result, Sergeant Harrison was immediately demoted, suspended without pay for 7 days, and will not be eligible for any favorable action for 2 years. Deputy Godey was suspended without pay for 2 days, and both officers will be required to undergo remedial civil rights training. Overall, the Columbia County officers get an F for illegally detaining, handcuffing, and searching Mr. Hodges, demanding that he identify himself when he was under no legal obligation to do so, and arresting him when he refused to comply with their unlawful orders and threatened to file a complaint against them for their unconstitutional actions. Although it is possible that Deputy Godey initially mistook Mr. Hodges' cane for a firearm, throughout the encounter recorded on her body camera, the cane is clearly visible and does not look remotely similar to any firearm, making her claims highly unreasonable at best. It is evident that the only crime Mr. Hodges committed was refusing to unquestioningly comply with the officer's unlawful commands, as they continued to detain and handcuff him after he had clearly demonstrated he was not involved in any criminal activity. While I commend Sheriff Hunter for actually taking disciplinary action against the officers involved, I seriously question whether the abusive and authoritarian attitudes these officers demonstrated towards Mr. Hodges can be corrected with additional training. And I hope Sheriff Hunter will take more permanent steps if another issue arises with either of these officers. Mr. Hodges gets an A+ for knowing, understanding, and defending his constitutional rights, refusing to comply with the officer's illegal orders, and taking appropriate action after this interaction. Throughout the encounter, Mr. Hodges repeatedly communicated to the officers that he did not consent to their actions and that they were violating his rights. And although the officers did not seem to care, Mr. Hodges did not allow their indifference to the Constitution to dissuade him from exercising his rights. I commend Mr. Hodges for having the courage to stand firm in the face of police overreach and to immediately file a complaint and pursue legal action against the officers involved. And I wish him the best as he seeks to defend his rights in court.